We are almost live. Let's check out Facebook. There we go. Facebook is working. And good to see you all, fine folks. I love doing this with you guys. I mean, it's like I've said it before, it's cliche, but it is fucking true. It is so cool to see you guys gradually develop bigger and bigger problems and see the progress and the sales people make and the clients they help and the lives change. It is a very, very, very cool thing to see on this end. Quick little announcement. I kind of teased it a little bit in the group, but I'm going to be doing a training for you guys on what I called the side door, which is a way to get a whole bunch of cheap advertising. I think we're getting buyers leads right now for like 10 cents a piece. Haven't checked it in a few days. Haven't really felt like checking it, but I know the numbers are good enough. And want to show you guys how you can do this in any market. Really, like where you can walk in and find, even though like the bulk of the traffic may be really expensive, like Facebook and Google, like in my niche in personal injury, some of the clicks in like Google are like 40 bucks, 50 bucks a click, and I can come in the side door and get those same people for 10 cents by just meeting them at a different stage in the awareness. So I've been meaning to do this for you guys a little bit sooner, but last week was just one of those tired with 3 kids weeks, and I didn't really want to get out of bed. Doesn't happen super often, but wasn't feeling super motivated, so I wanted it to be better for you guys. Thought it'd be worth the wait. So that's my quick announcement on that. Other than that, let's get into the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. I watched too much wrestling as a kid. That's a fact. So this one wasn't so much a question, just I had some comments that I think would benefit all you guys here. Justin says, big shout out to you, Frankie. Thanks for your guidance. We will hit 90K in commissions, that's passive income, from our first revenue share partnership from just one of the accounts we produced for our client. There's more in the pipeline that'll pay out doing a happy dance. So Justin's obviously pretty stoked. I mean, when you get a $90,000 commission check and it's set up to recur for, I think a couple of years, I may be mistaken on how long, but you know, it's obviously like a pretty big deal and it's a pretty big thing. And I wanted to give you guys something in here that you can all do with that. And part of what I think the biggest piece of that is most people don't understand enough that the biggest factor in your success in all of this is actually the clients you choose to work with. It's like 60% of the equation. And what most people do horribly religiously wrong, I'm not saying everybody, but if I talk to like 20 agency owners, like 18 or 19 of them are doing this, which is they're going after the bottom 80% market that is most struggling, that is the least likely to still be in business. And usually the reason why is they think these really big established businesses that are spending a bunch on marketing, they got it all figured out. And almost always if you work in one of those companies, if you ever worked for like a big, dumb Fortune 500 company, do they seem like they got it all figured out? Usually, in my experience, there's like politics and bullshit and pointless meetings, and turning the ship is complicated, and there's policies and there's just all kinds of nightmares. So these companies don't have it all figured out, is my point. So the biggest success factor is really just going after bigger, more established companies and realizing they don't have it all figured out. And in some ways, their problems get bigger. Like if a business has one employee to feed, then a cash flow problem takes on one level. If they have 1,000 employees to feed, that's a bigger, more stressful problem, and it's more urgent. You know, if there's some cash flow issue and they can't afford to pay 1,000 people, right? So these businesses actually need you more. And if whether you do that in the form of like what Justin did with a revenue share, or you just go after them as retainer clients, you're going to have generally a better experience. So I see people go after these little one-man shows in every niche, and then they struggle. The one-man yoga person, the one-man dentist, the one-man contractor, the one-woman massage therapist, whatever, right? Like it's a whole bunch of like tiny operations. And when you start giving yourself permission to go after the one with 8 locations, the one with 20 locations, the one who spends $1 million per year just on one form of advertising, you'll actually have a way better experience with it working with clients. So I hope that's helpful to you guys that are just listening to this, is like give yourself permission to level up in that regard, and you'll make your life a whole bunch easier. Kenneth says, I'm running ads for a water treatment company. They get leads, but they're all asking for the price or quote. How can we increase appointments in this kind of business? Any tips? Kenneth, as I often do, I think you're asking the wrong question. I'm a little contrary in that way. I don't think the right question is how you can get more appointments. Think about this, okay? Most of your leads are asking one exact question. How much is it? And so I think the best thing you can do is actually answer that question preemptively and comfortably put an offer for that thing they keep asking how much it is right on the damn site or the landing page or wherever, the ad where they're trying to find that information out. Because to me, I would rather talk to only the people who already know the price and want to move forward. I don't want to talk to 100 people and have 80 of them find out like they're not in a situation to do it. Like this is common, for example, with really big purchases. A lot of times people inquire about, say, real estate that they're not intending to buy for like 6 months. Okay, so what you want to do is really focus on answering that. Now, a lot of times people hide behind price because they believe price has to go only at the end. And I wrote about this extensively in version 2.0 here, which actually just arrived. I got a bunch of author copies. And in here, what I wrote about is there's something called the IVQ formula, and it's how you can present the price of anywhere and not have it seem expensive because it's contrasted by the value. So like if I say, for example, it's $5,000 to buy a car, that doesn't really mean a lot unless you know what kind of car, right? If that's a 1997 used Toyota, you're going to have a very, very different value perception than if that's a $250,000 brand new Ferrari, right? So it's important that you know what you're getting for the money, and not enough people do that. They just say the price is $1,000, and you want to say the price is $1,000, and you will get blank if you are in blank situation. So that's the IVQ formula. And what I would say is, instead of trying to figure out how you can get more phone calls, think about how you can get more sales. And so I would focus on, if they're all asking for the price, put together a really fucking awesome offer for the thing they keep asking about and put the price right up front proudly, and you'd be amazed. You'll make a whole bunch of sales and you won't have to like chase a bunch of appointments. There's no need to talk to people on the phone if all they want to know is how much it costs. Just answer that right in the literature, but do that in a powerful way. So I hope that's helpful to you, my man. Kevin says, quick question. So far, I would cold call to businesses, offer them an idea to add booked appointments, then ask permission to share ideas through email. Since I'm just starting out with no results to show yet, how do I create great Loom video using Frankie's method that I want to use their asset email list to propose a first date without case studies to show yet? Kevin, this is a really, really good question. This is an intelligent question. Okay, so firstly, I just want to clarify something before I kind of answer your question, that Loom videos, while completely fucking awesome because it's really, really badass to make sales without having to like have these 60, 90-minute conversations. If you can make sales, just send somebody a 5-minute video and they message you back and say, I'm in, invoice paid. Like, it's way, way cooler. But it is a tool, and it's not the right tool for every job, right? Like, just like in golf, if you're on the green, even though the driver's an awesome club, don't take out the driver right at that moment. So the reason I say that is because to me, it says I'm offering to add them a booked appointment. Now, as I mentioned in the book, the offer is the most important thing. Is booked appointments what they really want? I don't think anybody really wants booked appointments. I think they want what they think the result will be if you take that 2 steps forward is they'll get the right person on the phone and they'll sell them one of their things. So what they really want is to sell one of those things. So this is to say, like, if you think about the result, you have to be clear about who you're going to run this for. We're not offering them booked appointments. We're offering to help them actually sell their thing. And it's also not email they're buying. As I've mentioned, the email is kind of like a little bit of a hammer, right? It's a tool to accomplish a job. What they want to do is put the ball into the hole. They don't want to hit it. Hitting it is just a step towards that. So in your case, like, I would get really clear about that and then just create a simple first date offer. And you'd be amazed if you do this, Kevin. You actually don't even need to get on the phone, even without a whole bunch of case studies. And I'll give you an example of this, okay? I don't do SEO anymore. But my SEO offer for many, many years was basically like, pay me a couple thousand every month. I will rank your website over the next 12 months. And I'll do my best at it, but no guarantees because Google's fucking crazy, but I'm pretty good at it and I've helped a bunch of people. And I'd like to try and do that for you. And if you look at that, part of the reason that needs case studies and testimonials and proof is because the size of the commitment is big, right? It's a fucking year. A year is a big thing to commit with a stranger you don't really know. And if I was selling that now, I would sell my big marriage in step 2. and I would create a much smaller, more meaningful version of it, what I call a first date. And what I would do if I was doing it today is I would pick a niche and I would find out like an easy to rank keyword over and over. So like I know when I used to do plastic surgery, like mommy makeover was an easy to rank keyword, but a highly valuable keyword. And so I would say, hey, so and so, like I would like to prove to you I can rank you for mommy makeover, whatever their city is, Dallas, mommy makeover, Chicago, and I'd like to prove this one keyword for you in the next 30 days. And if I can do it for you, I want you to pay me $500. And if I don't, you don't have to pay me anything, and I'll wait till at the end of the month. Is that agreeable to you? Can I go ahead and try and get you guys ranked for this one easy keyword? And so that's not to say the solution is to sell one easy keyword, but it's to think smaller. The reason why they want all those case studies and testimonials and things like that is because we're making the ask so big. And so if you just make it smaller, they don't ask for those things. Like if I just say, let me rank one keyword and you can pay me after the fact, like nobody goes, well, send me the last 22 people you've done for. They go, okay, I'll give you a shot. Go ahead, right? They got nothing to lose. So smaller version of the ask, and you can probably eliminate the Loom video. You can probably eliminate all those things. So I would think about what's the most you could accomplish with a customer list in one email for somebody in the right situation, and then I would just go offer that. Don't offer booked appointments. So it might be like if I'm dealing with a coach, if you got 300 students, I bet you I could sell a mastermind or two. Right? Like it doesn't have to be this huge giant, like I'm going to make you hundreds of $1,000s a month with Facebook ads. We think that's what businesses want to hear, but they don't normally. It's part 2 to that. I'm going to come to your question in a second, Nikki Two Angels. I see you there, my man. Kevin says, any suggestion how to do email marketing on a business that has low turnover rate, i.e. lawyers, dentists? Kevin, I was talking to our mastermind people, and this is a really important concept to understand that life is never free of problems, ever. Ever. Right? Like I used to think in business, like when I reached a certain amount of money, my problems would go away, and then I had hiring, delivery, kind of fulfillment problems. And then I solved those, and I had manager problems. And you're like, there's always another problem. What we want to do is have better problems. And the reason I tell you that in your case is businesses like lawyers and dentists that you think have low turnover, there's always another problem that comes after. And so if you think about just like sincerely helping people with the very next step, for instance, I have thought about this. I've not executed on this, but I've thought about in like the lawyer space, a common thing is after people have a serious accident, yeah, they get a bunch of money, but most of them wish they didn't. Like they're seriously injured. And one of the things is like those people probably could use things like help around the house and food delivered to their door. And so all of those things you could sell. So what I think about in your situation, because I saw the 2-part question, kind of get an idea where you're coming from, is just think about the biggest result or the single most meaningful result you could create sending one email to their list, and then offer that and skip the whole booked appointment thing altogether. And then what will happen is whatever your email marketing will get easier, and you just want to think about the next thing, right? Like, dentists always have complimentary services. So do lawyers. They're not finished selling their thing. And the reason they're not finished selling their thing is because people say, can you help me with this? What do I do about that? Do you have any recommendation for a physiotherapist I should go for? Right? So email one might just be like, hey, we've been thinking about you guys. We've hooked up a deal with a physiotherapist. But think about like, the biggest reason why we struggle with offering something in those situations because we're not actually sure what we would do after they say yes. So what I like to do is, as a mental practice to get over this so you can be really clear about what you're offering, is just imagine they already said yes, and the weight of yes has been lifted for you. And now you're only thinking about what's the most meaningful thing I could deliver in this short period of time using the resources they already have. And then you go offer that. And your email marketing, your whole pitch will get so much better because as soon as they say yes, you know exactly what you're going to do. So I hope that's helpful. I know that's probably an indirect way of answering it, but I'm just giving you my approach for dealing with that is get really clear about the result and then go offer that, and you'll be amazed. Nicholas DeAngelis, Nick Two Angels says, if you don't charge revenue share with dentists, what would you charge? This is a very good philosophical question. I mean, I've seen 3 ways you can price yourself practically. One is a retainer. I should say maybe that I've seen other ways of pricing it. I've seen people charge per result, so I guess there's that as well. There's the revenue share, and then of course the fourth way I guess is you can do combinations of each. Like you'll see this with the e-commerce guy. They do this unconsciously. They say it's $2,000 a month plus 10% of ad spend. Right? That's a revenue share deal plus a retainer in disguise. So the most important consideration with all of it, Nikki Two Angels, in my mind, is like when you're coming up with your price, is you're pricing it based on the value of the outcome and not pricing it on how long it's going to take, how much work it is. This is how like poor and middle class ideals creep into what we do, is we think we have to have these long, complicated deliverables on it. We really don't. There's an awesome Kevin Nation story that illustrates like people would actually rather have it faster. And it goes something like this. I'm probably butchering it. But he says there's a guy who goes to the dentist because his tooth is hurting. And when he gets there, the dentist is his old buddy from college. And they make a little small talk. Nice to see you, man. What have you been up to? I see you're a dentist now. I see you're a contractor now. The dentist tells him at the end of this, he says, we're going to need to remove your tooth. It'll cost about $600. Take me about 10 minutes. And he says, I got to go for a second. I'll be right back. He leaves the room. He comes back. And in that time, his contractor friend is thinking like, $600 for 10 fucking minutes? Dude, I make $30 an hour. That's 20 hours of work. Before taxes, I got to pay taxes on it. This dude wants $600 for 10 minutes? So he comes back in the door. He decides he's going to confront him. He says, like, $600 for 10 minutes? Like, that's like kind of ridiculous, don't you think? And the dentist says to him, he says, well, if it's time you're worried about, I can make it take longer. And so obviously he thinks about it, thinks like, no, I don't want to be in pain for longer than 10 minutes, just like get it done. And so what we want to think about, and I've heard lawyers say they price, they're willing to pay, what they want is a 6-to-1 return on their ad spend. So like if, I'm not saying this is universally true of every niche, but just give you an idea of how the top people think, is they'll say, if I make $6,000 off of something and I have all these, cost of delivery and overhead and things like that, I'm willing to pay $1,000 to go get that. So without hesitation, they'll pay $1,000 to make $6,000. And so if you show up to a lawyer, and I'm not saying this is universally like the same number in every market, but if you say, I'll work for you for $1,000 a signed case, they'll say yes to it every day. So if you feel like you can bring them, say, 2 cases a month, and that's a $12,000 outcome to them, then they'll happily pay $2,000 per month as a retainer and bat no eyes at it. So you always want to think about pricing your stuff for the value of the result. And then that's why I'm so big on like sell your client's most expensive thing, because then your result gets bigger and therefore your service becomes more valuable. So the easiest way to do that is think about delivering your clients the easiest, fastest, best way you can deliver them like a really, really valuable outcome. And then you can price it however you want, whether it's $1,000 per case, $2,000 a month, $1,000 a month plus 20% of ad spend, however you want to price it. There's lots of ways to play with it, but the more clear you are about like, and this gets easier, by the way, with having a narrow niche, because they know the value of their price, right? If you do it a little bit for everybody, you got to recalculate those numbers every time. So I hope that's helpful for you, my man. But if you think about the value of the result and get clear on that, then you price your stuff a little bit less, and then it's an obvious deal for them. David says, I was wondering whether someone here does email marketing for clients. Does your email provider provide some sort of portal where your clients could log in and see the emails and analytics, or do you just set up the account for them somewhere and log in through it? I was setting up Campaign Monitor, which offers this portal, but last couple of days I can't seem to log in, nor would they respond to my emails. David, I hate when the software don't work. I actually have a name for that. Like, it sounds like your portal isn't working and all that. I call it getting rajed, because every time I've talked to tech support, it's like an Indian programmer on the other side, and they'd always tell me, no problem, sir, no problem. So I always imagine whenever the tech isn't working that there's a Raj on the other side going, no problem, sir, no problem. So anyways, I'm not trying to make light of your situation. Just laughing that that's part of working online, that sometimes the tech doesn't cooperate. Here's the deal with your question, David. It implies in there that what your clients want to see are emails. And what they really want to see are results of the emails, which you could summarize a lot quicker without a portal. Like this many people opened it, this many people read it, this many people clicked the link, this many people bought the thing. And the thing is actually the most important number. So if you can think about how to do that the easiest way possible, then you don't have to do a lot of reporting, right? Like if your stuff is actually selling their stuff, then you don't even have to talk about the emails at all. They don't care as long as it's working. So that's my way of saying I don't necessarily know how to get all your software in one place, but you want to think about like what are the 1 to 4 numbers that a client really wants to know most and talk about those things. And they'll care a lot less about email and open rates. Because what I used to do, like for example, because email is a hammer, and I used to sell SEO, which is another hammer. And when I used to sell all those things, like I would give people these complicated reports, and I'd show them the keywords and the tags we updated and all the movement and all the stuff we were doing. And they would be like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what's the bottom line? Do we get phone calls or not? Are people showing up? And I'd be like, yeah, that's what it means, right? Like the rankings went up, more people called, more people did stuff. And I realized at the end, like they don't really actually even want to know about the rankings at all. They want to know how that translated to the thing they want because it's just a tool for them. So that's my way of saying, like, instead of trying to report on email, which is like reporting on Facebook ads or reporting on SEO, just talk about the results you're creating for clients, and it'll be more valuable for them and less work for you. So I hope that's helpful, my friend. Joseph says, when did you hire your first project manager? After how many employees and how much monthly revenue? I'm looking to hire a PM, as project manager, but budgeting accordingly is a bit challenging, but I feel like this is one of the things holding me back, stuck in helping fulfillment instead of bringing on more new business working on the business. I feel you, Joseph. Like there's an underlying thing, and this is just real for all of us that go through on this journey at some point, is in the growth of your agency, especially around the beginning of stage 2 where you're starting to bring on employees, which is where you're coming up on, by the way, is there's a balance between sales and fulfillment. And it's hard, like anytime you work hard on the one, the other falls. And so when you start to realize, like, I need somebody who can manage one or the other one of these so that I can go hardcore at this other one and give all my attention to that. And I'm going to give you the worst answer in history, which is it depends. But I'll tell you what it depends on. The thing it depends on is, like, how big do you want to build this thing? Because if you're, like, different people have different goals, right? So if, like, you just want to hit $10,000 a month, I probably wouldn't bring in a project manager. If I'm trying to hit $100,000 a month, then like I want a project manager as soon as humanly possible. If I'm trying to hit $500,000 a month to $1 million a month, then it's like, why haven't we already hired 10 project managers? Like, what the fuck are we waiting for? So a little bit, it depends on your goals, because obviously there's a balance as well. Like, and I feel this where you started to make some money, and if you hire somebody, it's going to cut into the amount of money you're making. You don't want to do that. But I'll tell you, if you get really clear on this, what most people do is they optimize their business for money when their actual biggest constraint is a form of like time and energy. Energy specifically, right? Like you're hinting at the fact that I don't have enough time to do both of these things, and I'm in this flux and I'm in this balance on these two things. And what happens is, if you can like really, really focus at one of those things clearly, like you're talking about, then your energy will get freed up, especially if you pick the one of the two that you enjoy doing for more. For me, that's like sales and marketing. Like I actually don't like fulfillment at all. But early in my career, it was actually the opposite. I only wanted to fulfill, and I wanted to never have to sell my thing. So I would bring in the first person to fill that. Now, it sounds like in your case, you're probably similar in that you like the sales, marketing, the vision, the coming up with the front end stuff, but not necessarily like actually delivering it, whatever that is for you. Funnels, websites, backlinks, ads, articles, whatever, right? So if that is the case and I'm reading you correctly, then it sounds like you already know you need a project manager, and the reason you're hesitating is because it'll probably eat away at some of the money you're making. But I'll tell you what it'll do is it'll free up so much energy that you can then begin to use to go make more money. And in the end, yeah, it'll set you back a little bit in the short term, but it'll propel you forward in like 3 to 6 months. So we're not talking like a huge payoff. Like we're talking like 3 to 6 months, because once you have that part of your business freed and you can put somebody in there, especially if you got a good one and you know how to screen properly, then you can go do the thing you're really gifted at and the business will grow. It'll never be perfect, by the way. There's always challenges when you bring on people. Just warning you with that, right? If you haven't experienced those yet. But it sounds like in your case, the clear answer, at least for me, is like it's time to get a project manager. And it's time to go double down on the thing I'm good at and free up my energy. And what you'll find is your income will probably like triple out of it. But I find this is what happens, Joseph. I've said this in our mastermind. Every time your business triples, it breaks your existing machine. So like 0 to 1, like just you building up the business to that, everything works a certain way, and then you have to change it and bring in people. And so when you go from 1 to 3, your system breaks. And then you have to start like bringing in a real process when you go from like 3 to 10 employees. And then like 10 to 30, there has to be a management structure, and 30 to 100, it gets more corporate-y. And each time you do that, your machine's going to break. So you're just at a situation now where you basically have pushed the machine as far as it can go. And it sounds like for you is hiring. And just a shameless little plug, I put lots of good ideas on hiring. Whole chapter on that in here, so check it out. Theo. Hey, everyone. We're getting good results for a med spa client of ours, and they're able to make 4 to 5 times their money back with all the appointments we booked for them. But last month was pretty dry, and they barely broke even. We track all the numbers. Since the results haven't been as good as usual, the owner is starting to freak out and is very hesitant in continuing with us. How would you deal with this situation? I'm having a hard time explaining to her the concept of LTV and to tell her that even if she breaks even, she will likely make much more money in the long term. How do you deal with clients that are only looking to get results up front and don't really think long term? Oh, Theo, this is a hell of a question. I think there are some layers to this one. I'll tell you the first layer that jumps out at for me as like a potential solution is don't work with clients who are like these tiny little things that need it to work today. Like your client almost sounds like a desperate crack addict to me. Like, I'm not saying they are, but they almost sound like it. Like, we need leads now. Second thing that jumps out at me, and this is one of those hidden things that it doesn't always seem like it, but it sounds to me like a problem of expectations in disguise. Because when you're running Facebook ads, anybody who runs Facebook ads, is this your experience? You turn on an ad, you run it, it works great forever and ever till the end of time and you never have to touch it? Or is your experience of Facebook ads is that they work for a while and then you got to change things and you're constantly like having to test, tweak, and try new things? And so it's the opposite of set and forget. It's a very management intensive, heavy ad platform. Is that your experience like mine? So if your experience like mine is that Facebook ads have ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs, there's points where you get lots of leads, no leads, change ads, all those kind of things. If you tell your client on day one, like, we're going to generate you this much business every month and you're going to get so fucking rich, that is a problem of perception. Now they think the only way you guys can be successful is if you're like crushing it month after month after month. If you set the expectations more in line with actual reality and say, hey, I want to be real with you. Facebook ads have ebb and flow. We got to check them. A lot of times it'll drop off for a month. We got to change things. We got to try. We got to tweak them. That's part of the reason you're paying us is because we figure this shit out for you. But I want to let you know the first time we have a down month, don't freak the fuck out. Like, we're going to be testing, we're going to be tweaking, and we're going to do what's necessary to get us back on track. But it just might be a little quiet period when that happens. Are you cool with that? So that's the second thing that jumps out is like, we want to be real with expectations. If you tell people like business is going to be awesome and it's going to be rainbows and butterflies and no problems are ever going to happen. Like, it's much better to actually be real with people and say, even sometimes I'm human and I fuck shit up. I forget to turn off your ad or I do this. And when I do some stupid shit, I'm going to tell you I screwed up. So that's okay. So there was one more thing that jumped out at me. I'm just rereading your question here, Theo. The other thing is, by the way, this is a bigger symptom of when you work on a business's front end because they pay the most attention to the front end. When you bring them a back end client, it's like, oh, that's cool, because they have zero expectation that it's even going to work or do anything because they've only ever gotten more business by selling more new people. So you'll probably make your life a lot easier if you focus a little more on the back end. You say, hey, I got this email, let me send it out and we'll get you a person or two. The other thing you may want to consider is when we used to do Facebook ads first for lawyers, I would have what I call my instant gratification thing, something I could do that would produce a little small result for them quickly, usually something with their customer list, and run the ads. So those two things were going on simultaneously so that there was less pressure on the ads to work because they'd get a few people here. And because of the few people here, there was, like the whole thing was just a little easier to manage. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I would consider that as well, like as a potential solution of like, hey, if we can run a little email campaign, get them a client or two, and then run the ads, they'll be a little more chilled out while we run the ads and, we have a down month or whatever. They'll give us a little bit more leeway in leash because we got this other thing working. But Theo, I would tell you actually the biggest of those things is actually, it sounds like your stuff's working and you're just setting crazy high expectations that can't be fulfilled by reality. And what you want to do is dial it back to reality of like, hey, I'm a good partner. I figure shit out. We'll cycle the ads. We'll do what we need to do. But it's not always going to be like this 18-month hero run of just printing money. There's lots of ebb and flow to it while we try things. Nikki Two Angels, round 3, my man. How would you go about linking CBD companies who sell balms and salves with chiropractors, massage therapists, and spas? How would you go about charging them for your service? Oh, this is a good question, my man. A little bit of a strategic question. How would I go about linking CBD companies who sell balms and salves with chiropractors, massage therapists, and spas? Well, firstly, I mean, the key to success in opening any door is to make like an irresistible offer in the process. So we actually just did this. I have a friend here who makes skin creams and stuff, and we're actually just experimenting a little bit with this. And what we did, or I should say we're going to do because we haven't done it yet, but we're going to the market and offering them this product and saying, hey, this helps people with XYZ. And we're just going to give you 3 freebies, and if you sell them, you'll make $30 extra than you would today. And if you don't, we'll come pick them up, and there's no charge, right? Like completely irresistible offer. So that's the first thing, is anytime you want to open the door with somebody, the answer is an irresistible offer. Now, how would I go about charging them for the service? I'm assuming like for a CBD company, you're showing up as a partner. For those kind of deals, like I would want to be paid like a partner. So that would mean like, hey, if we can sell $10,000 of your shit, you happy to pay me $4? I usually try and keep it at like 30 to 50% of what they actually keep. So obviously there'll be a cost of product and cost of fulfillment. But say they sell a $10 thing and keep 5, you say, I want 40% or 50% of that 5. That's how I would typically do that. I wouldn't necessarily want to be Mr. like custom CBD delivery, just because from a delivery perspective, that's going to be hard to sell or hard to scale unless you're paid like really handsomely as a partner. So as far as the irresistible offer, I mean, it might be just like give them a free sample. Like what's more irresistible than that? Like, hey, we got this cool thing. Not all of them will resonate, by the way, with that. Some of them you'll give a free sample and they'll go, fuck you. I would never endorse this product. But some of them will, right? And a free sample is a way to open the door, especially a free sample, little note in the mail that says, hey, we saw we have some mutual interest. We're interested in being a potential partner with you. If you like the product, we're happy to send you a whole bunch more at a great rate. In the meantime, just enjoy a free one and see if it's for you. And then as far as charging them, like I said, I would set it up on a partnership, because what's going to happen is a bunch of the partners will just say no or be not interested. That's typical. But the ones who will may sell like 1,000 of these things a year for the next 10 years. And so if you're going to set up that kind of deal, I wouldn't want to be paid like a monthly service. I'd want like 30% of that forever. So that's a little advanced question, Nikki Two Angels, but that's just at least my initial thoughts on how I'd handle that. I think that's it we got for all the amazing questions, my dudes and dudettes. As always, if you guys missed the little intro part, was just talking about we're going to be doing some training on the side door, which is getting cheap ads in front of the buyers in your market, coming in all kinds of just creative ways to find ways to get in front of your audience without having to pay these big exorbitant Google and Facebook fees. There's always lots of little hidden opportunities, or you can use these organically if you want as well. I'm going to show you one huge example of how we're doing that. The mastermind members got 7, but I had to kind of like scale it back a little bit because I didn't want, there has to be some value that, our special, awesome paid members are getting. But other than that, it's going to be fucking awesome. And you guys are going to hear some shit you've never heard before about running an agency, both in terms of how you can use this for yourself to get your own clients, as well as how you can use it for your clients to produce results without having to have these huge ad budgets. And you can still have huge ad budgets. You just don't need to have 50 or 100 grand a month to make a difference. So I hope that's helpful to you guys, my friends, and we'll be sharing that soon, and also some other cool stuff. So that's all I got for you guys this week. May the force be with you, and much love.